the desert of the real.
Welcome. We're glad that you're here. I'm your host, Jason Dietz.
And I'm Ryan Hudson.
You gotta be some kind of host.
I'm the
host. Uber host.
I'm the other host.
The other, great. We'll go with that. Welcome to the Desert of the Real, a movie podcast where I force Ryan to watch amazing movies that he has thus far refused to watch because he didn't think they were worth his time.
I don't know about that. Maybe I just don't have time.
Maybe, but it's happening now.
Yeah.
We are two high school English teachers who also teach film studies, philosophy, and creativity classes. We have graduate degrees, and we use our academic training to dig deeply into movies. We explore the creativity, the philosophy, and the ethics in our films, and push our listeners to think critically about their entertainment.
Welcome, critical thinkers.
Welcome indeed.
We're going to start calling our audience critical thinkers. If
thinkers.
you listen to this podcast, you are a critical thinker.
That is true.
Yeah, might as well.
This week, we are branching out from horror films.
Watching one of the greatest movies ever made, Lord of the Rings, which I was shocked when you said you wanted to watch Lord of the Rings. But here we are.
Here we are.
Ready to talk about it for like 3 hours, probably.
Probably. And then Ryan woke up and realized that was not one of the greatest movies ever made. And we instead watched Lord of War.
Oh, I watched all 3 Lord of the Rings extended editions instead.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
I'm surprised that you are not insane at this point.
Man, wait till our audience finds out you don't like Lord of the Rings.
I think they just did.
They're going to be like, I thought this was for critical thinkers.
Well, once we get done with the interminable... At this point, I feel like this Marvel thing is never going to end because they're just going to keep making more and more movies. We're never going to get to the point where we're like, okay, end of season 1, let's move to a different series.
Kind of, but there is only one Marvel movie coming out this year. But then after Marvel, we'll do Star Wars. And after that...
Well, apparently Lord of the Rings is not that important then.
No,
if
we
our
need to do Star
immediate
Wars next.
following is Star Wars.
Even though Lord of the Rings, best trilogy of all time. He just stared at me.
No, I also said,
Yes.
I did that.
I just needed to tell the audience what was going on.
Yeah, well.
He just looked at me unblinkingly.
Yes.
Like a predator. No, a prey does to its prey.
I was waiting for the other part of the joke,
Oh, I see.
but it never dropped. You need to work on your punchline.
We watched Lord of War, starring Nicolas Cage.
Yes, indeed.
And something I didn't
Jared
know.
Leto.
Jared Leto. And Ethan Hawke's in there.
Ethan Hawke.
Ethan Hawke's in there, but he's not in it enough.
No, I agree with that. Yeah.
Someone commented on Letterboxd that I liked was like, Ethan Hawke not being in this movie enough is worse than anything that they did. It's worse than all the war crimes in the movie.
Yeah. He is definitely... He's kind of a wasted resource in this movie, for sure.
The last scene is great, but it would have been nice if he was in it more.
It would, yeah, I agree. 100% agree.
Yeah.
Ethan Hawke is amazing.
I saw, looking up stuff about this movie, Ethan Hawke said he liked making this movie.
I'm sure.
And he respects Nicolas Cage. He has this quote about something like, if Nicolas Cage didn't have the bottom half of his filmography and just the top half, like the good stuff, everyone would just be praising his name all day long.
Sure.
He just respects what Nicolas Cage does.
Yeah.
Which gets complicated. There's a whole episode of Community where Ben has a mental breakdown. Is Nicolas Cage a good actor or not?
Yeah. He's one of my favorites until,
This is maybe close to around where he starts not being the best because he starts doing a lot of other movies.
Right, just for the money.
2005. I was only in like 5th grade when 2005 happened. How old were you in 2005? Do some math.
Oh, geez, I don't even know. Oh, actually, that one's an easy one.
Yeah.
75 to 2005. So I was 30.
Nice. You were the age I am now when this movie came out, and I was just,
Itty bitty.
I was a 5th grader.
I did not watch this movie when it came out. So
Yeah. Very nice.
I found out this weekend that my dad has seen this movie,
Oh, really?
which honestly is quite a shock for me.
Yeah. This movie, if it was just the violence and the language, and it didn't have the sexual stuff, it would, I think, more appealing to like people like your dad and people like my dad. Actually, they
Yeah.
like war movies. They like history movies. They
Yeah, he
still wanna
loves
see
history.
sexual content, and nudity. And honestly, there is language in it, but it's not like overbearing. It's like, yeah, that makes sense to use a word there probably. There's some intense moments in this movie.
I suppose.
So if it's like, not that you have to justify using coarse language, but if it's not a lot in your face every 10 seconds, sometimes it's more digestible and stuff. Also researching this movie, some people compared it to War Dogs, which is similar, and I'll come back to this later on, but War Dogs is also about gun runners, but it came out in 2016, which is actually like 10 years from now. Wow, time is fast. Time is strange. That movie came out 10 years ago, and that movie uses a lot more language. But anyway, we'll get back to War Dogs.
Will we?
Yeah.
Well, that's a teaser
Mm-hmm.
right there. Good job planning that.
Yeah. So, a brief summary of Lord of War. Nicolas Cage, Yuri, who's from the Ukraine.
Originally.
His character comes from Ukraine with his family, and he just starts almost immediately getting into like selling guns, and then it quickly builds to selling lots of guns. Then it quickly builds. He's working directly with like dictators and countries, selling mass amounts of weapons to supply wars and revolts and all these things. Along the way, he gets wealthy. He basically tricks a woman into marrying him because he uses his wealth to like make things happen. His brother helps him at first and then stops helping him. But the second half of the movie, he gets in too deep. He tries to go clean for 6 months. Doesn't happen. The warlords bring him back in. And then it just kind of ends on this note where it's like, this is based on actual events. The Yuri that Nicolas Cage plays is not a real person, but heavily inspired by one specific person. But inspired by other people and events that really did happen. How one guy essentially funded all of this, like guns and ammo and killing in the world.
Yep.
There's some crazy statistics in this movie that Nicolas Cage just drops.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I think that's pretty
good summary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I approve.
The movie begins with how many guns exist in the world, and that's like one for every 12 people.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, so the question is, how do we get guns to the other 11 people?
That's right.
Man, what a way to start a movie.
Yeah.
Actually, the opening sequence, the opening titles, The Life of a Bullet is maybe one of the best ever. Like,
yeah,
you famously don't like to watch credits.
No, I watched this one.
But yeah, this one by itself is a little mini movie.
Mm-hmm.
Some people even say it overshadows the rest of the movie, which I don't think is fair, but it's kind of, it's cool.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
It is really cool. So, positives. What did you like?
Okay, there's a lot of little things here and there. This movie is very visual, and it makes me miss film sometimes. As in, a lot of our movies are filmed with the digital camera. You can just tell this is film.
Right.
Like how rich the colors are,
Yeah.
The silhouettes and shadows. Because there's so many just imagery, like coming out of the tank barrel. There's a part the guy's like I guess cocking a gun or loading the gun and it's going ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching.
Yeah, with the money sound. Yeah.
Some people didn't like how much narration there was, but I love that.
Yeah, I did
I
too.
think it helps out with the movie a lot.
Yeah. So like you said, this movie is built around those really clever or really beautiful moments
Yeah.
that are also horrific,
Yeah.
but are also beautiful. Like, there's this one moment early in the movie where Nicolas Cage and his brother were trying to do a deal. It went south. They're trying to escape, and all of a sudden there's these bullets coming through the wall at them, and they
Right.
like hit the ground.
Yeah.
And Nicolas Cage kind of peeks through a crack,
Yeah.
and what's on the other side of that wall is a bunch of people executing like kids.
Yeah.
And it's a horrible thing, but the way that it's shot, it's also this, like, it's beautiful in capturing the horror of that moment, just the depravity of that moment.
Right.
And there's so many moments like that in the film.
Actually, speaking of that, I was like, I'll have a deep dive on this little thing. But when it's talking about the AK-47, which was new at the time, because it takes place in the 80s into the 90s into like the early 2000s and stuff. But the AK-47, the new on the scene, and it goes into a bunch of detail about its name and origin and all these things. Like, so easy a baby can shoot it.
Yeah.
But it starts playing Swan Lake Ballet. And at first I was like, there must be a thematic connection to the overall story of Swan Lake. But then I was like, wait, probably not. It's just the fact that it's treating this gun like a ballet.
Yeah. Beauty in the
Yeah.
art of.
Because it's not just, it's like slow motion.
Yeah.
You see all like, all these things about the AK-47.
I mean, there's a lot of beauty in all of the movies, but I feel like this is the movie where the beauty is the most well tied to the overall purpose of the movie and the message of the movie.
Yeah.
Even in the violence of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. This is just a gorgeous movie.
Yeah, and we're at in our Marvel movies where you might start noticing, because I keep bringing it up, how flat and not colorful they
Right.
are looking now.
Yeah.
And this movie is just the blacks are black, like the shadows, the colors are vibrant.
Yeah.
It's well shot.
Yeah.
That's when you get a cinematographer behind. I like, though, you brought it up to me before I watched the movie, how even if you're pro guns in real life or anti-war, or even pro-war, I don't know, are people pro-war? Maybe.
Apparently, according to the movie,
Actually, wait a
there's a
second.
lot of them.
But like this movie just, hopefully makes you start thinking
Yeah.
about things.
Yeah. So this is definitely a critical thinker's playground, because there's so much, like so many different aspects of this movie that cause you to step back and say, oh, do I believe that? Do I think that? And when we get into the ethics, we'll go through a lot of that. But this forces us to question not only guns, but like sex,
Yeah.
love, parenthood, art, tons of stuff. So yeah, critical thinker's playground. So I feel like I said last episode, this is one of Nicolas Cage's best performances,
Yeah.
in my opinion. And I really like Nicolas Cage a lot. Pre-sellout phase or whatever,
Well, I don't know if he
whatever it's
sellouts.
called.
Only because he commits. Even if
Yeah.
it's a bad movie, he's in it.
Yeah.
He's in it all the way.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a bad Nicolas Cage performance?
No, but I've seen a lot of
Bad
Bad movies with Nicolas Cage in
Nicolas
them.
Cage. I just want to look up, because
like
he does.
Face Off, for example, is a horrible, horrible movie, but he is 100% in.
I hate to admit, but I have not.
I-
Seen
you
Face
don't need
Off.
to.
I want to though.
It is the one of the movies that I'm like, there is no way I can suspend my disbelief for this movie. Do you know the premise?
I know the premise. Yeah.
So Nicolas Cage is maybe $150, and John Travolta's like 230, 250, something like that. I'm supposed to believe that just by taking the skin off of their faces and
It's
putting the skin on
Everyone-
the other body, that they suddenly look. Yeah,
no one.
No.
Everyone
No,
suspends their belief for that. movie.
no,
Not you though.
nope.
Wow. There's a bunch of.
There's no way to suspend your disbelief that doesn't You'd have to like brain transplant is the
No.
only way that could happen.
It's like-
Anyhow, this is not about Face Off, which is a horrible, horrible movie.
Wow.
This is about Lord of War, which is a great movie. So,
There are a bunch of Nicolas Cage movies that I have not seen, like just from the last few years.
yeah,
Anyway.
there's probably none that you need to see.
Sometimes there's an actor, I like to call them red box actors. It's like, oh, here's a movie with this person. Just appeared one day.
Yeah.
In Redbox.
Shows up.
Okay, I love in this movie. Okay, it's very satisfying to watch people who are good at what they do.
Yeah.
My favorite example is probably Spotlight. It won Best Picture a few years ago about uncovering these newspaper reporters uncovering like the scandal with the Catholic Church and priests and stuff. But it's like just so fast. It's just satisfying to watch people good at what they do.
Right.
And you're supposed to hate this guy,
Right.
Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not supposed to hate him necessarily because you find yourself rooting for him. I did at least.
I don't know that I did.
Like he's a scumbag. You don't like what he's doing, but he's good at what he does,
Yeah,
and that's fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
You know he's selling guns that will kill people. He knows that too. But how he gets out of like problems, how he
Right.
can talk to like the warlords and stuff. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree. He's very, very good. I specifically love his ethical gymnastics.
Yeah.
Like anytime anyone's like, well, you realize this, he finds a way to make what he's doing ethical.
See, that's why I think
In his mind, anyway.
it's not out of the question to also think that too. It's like, well, he's not killing people.
Right.
He's just selling things. I mean, and then you could be like anti-capitalist, I suppose. The capitalism is the reason why
This all's going on.
this is all going on. I think he's just comfortable in the moral gray area. I actually thought he was the reason behind the car bomb. It actually wasn't until they said
Oh, yeah, no.
it was the other guy. But I was like, oh, wow, he just straight up killed someone? That
No.
came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until later. But I was like, oh, he was morally gray until that moment. But no.
Well, he does have that moment later on where he leaves the moral gray ground.
Yeah, he
kind of.
is he's like directly responsible, kinda, to killing
Right.
someone.
He
but
could have
also,
said stop.
what
and-
if he did say stop? Would they have let him or
No.
the other guy? No,
Right.
I mean that's why it's like, yeah, you pulled the trigger, but someone made you pull the trigger.
But they didn't really, because he could have stopped it. But he did
Yeah.
really.
Then after
right.
he shoots him, he's like, stop or
Stop.
wait or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to. I don't even know if I'm dipping or stepping on your toes for the
Step.
philosophy. This movie can be eye-opening
Mhm.
because it just will throw out statistics. So, like for example, when the Cold War ended, there were just weapons that needed a place to go. $32 billion of weapons came from Ukraine alone. From that country, out of all countries involved in the Cold War and stuff. And it says something like it would cost more to bring them to America than it would be just to make more guns. So
Yeah.
we're just going to make more guns.
Yep.
That's crazy stuff. But at the same time, I don't know how to say this. Growing up, America is the best.
Right.
You know? And I don't know when or if people start questioning their own country when that starts happening. But this movie is very much like, yeah, America is doing things it shouldn't do on a moral ground.
Well, depends on your ethics.
Exactly. But it's like,
Right.
we're funding, this movie doesn't get into specifics necessarily, but it's like, yeah, America probably does fund specific countries. I mean, probably. What am I saying? Have I been alive for the last 30 years? There's a little thing called the Iraqi War and the
Sure.
war in Afghanistan and
Ukraine.
Ukraine,
Right.
among others
Yeah.
in my lifetime.
Yeah.
So it's like, obviously, America spends a lot of money on war.
Yep.
Actually, that's one of the best parts in War Dogs is how it starts. It like breaks down how expensive every single piece of equipment on one soldier is. Like a vest and boots and goggles and the gun, and like every single thing adds up. Thousands of dollars are being spent on one soldier. All this money, it's, you know, the military industrial complex. It's,
Here we are.
I guess, I don't know if it's even fair to call it the necessary evil, because we don't want to be attacked and we want to be able to defend ourselves, but how much damage are we doing? Is there more good or bad out there? And this movie makes me scared about the world, I should say.
Yeah, but it doesn't, I don't feel like it says this is what you should think.
Right.
At any point. It's just kind of here, like even Nicolas Cage at the very start of the movie says, I'm not going to try and sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try and be the good guy. I'm just going to tell you what happened. And that's what it does. And so we're left, with that, at least that question among many other questions. Are we as a country, the United States as a country, doing good?
Yeah.
By exporting arms, by supporting one group over another group.
I don't mean to spoil a separate movie. Maybe I won't say the title. I don't know.
Just,
Hey, in the movie Sicario, you are following, I guess they're not the border security into Mexico to stop a cartel,
mm-hmm.
and then it's revealed at the end that America was like sponsoring this happen because we'd rather a different cartel. You know, This one's too powerful. It's easier to control the other one.
Right.
Of influx of stuff into the United States.
So.
And it even ends, the movie ends with like, this country, this country, this country, this country make the most weapons. And they're all part of...
permanent members of the UN
the United Nations,
Council.
right?
Yeah.
And kind of leave that with like, are these countries interested in the best for the world? But it's
Draw
also,
your own conclusions,
But separating it from the country, the United States, what Nicolas Cage's character represents is the individuals who benefit,
right?
And how much a person, or maybe even a company, could put more bad into the world. Like, it made me think of, this is a movie, I think you watched it, maybe not a lot of people have because it came out just last year, called Pain Hustlers.
Mm-mm.
With Emily Blunt. It's on Netflix, a Netflix movie, and Chris Evans of Captain America fame. But it's about how selling this type of drug, they made deals with doctors to push it to like get everyone rich involved.
Right.
But it maybe wasn't necessarily the best type of drug. That's like the premise. And it's the same thing with this movie. It's like we're following someone getting rich because they are pushing war and killing and death and stuff. He's
is he pushing it, or is he just filling an already it's also an open question,
right?
Is he satisfying an already existent need, or is he creating that? We don't it doesn't ever. Anyhow, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right. It just made me. And this is why I liked it. It just made me think about like how screwed the world is. Like how
unless our critical thinkers rise up and change it.
Yeah, because like
fix it.
If setting aside the government and the army, one person hypothetically, like Nicolas Cage, could be like, yeah, let me get guns to this place because war is profitable.
Right.
He got a phone call in the car. It's like, peace talks. Hold on, the guns are on their way.
Yeah, I'm going to have to reroute them. But we're left again with that idea that if one person, this is one guy.
Yeah, exactly.
If one person can do all of this, one person can also be the opposite, the other side.
How can they, though?
I firmly believe that is possible. So my whole teaching philosophy, everything about what I do as a teacher is built on you find your power and then use it to change something.
Right.
Could I take down the Nicolas Cage character? Absolutely not.
Right.
I'm a teacher. But do I teach a student that potentially could? Yeah, I believe so. And if there are enough people helping people learn how to think critically, somewhere in all of those people that we are teaching how to think critically about the world, there's going to be that guy or that girl who's going to be like, yeah, I have the skill set. I know what I'm doing. I know that's wrong, or I believe that that's wrong. I'm going to
Yes.
stop it. I have to believe that.
I mean,
I firmly
guess
believe
in
that.
theory I do too, but here's an interesting point. I don't want to bring up politics. This is not a political
No.
podcast.
It is.
However, I feel like this movie
However, I'm going to go ahead and bring
It's-
up politics.
in the 80s,
Yes.
and this movie actually skirts around, for the most part, Ronald Reagan.
Although they shoot.
You see people shooting Ronald Reagan's image.
Yeah.
And Ronald Reagan's kind of become a poster child for why is the world awful? Well,
It's Reagan's fault.
Reaganism in the 80s and capitalism, yada, yada. You can like almost say this movie parallels people who complain about the world and stuff. But then, I don't know, to not be specific, but once again, I was in 5th grade in 2005 when the Iraqi war and the Afghan war was going on. And I didn't fully understand, and maybe to some extent, I don't fully understand right now all the details about what was going on and reasons why we were even there, technically.
Right.
At the time, as a little kid, it's like, oh, 9/11, the war happening shortly after, that's why. You know, to a 10-year-old. The politics of the president or rulers of a country. Like, I don't know. It's just, you see a lot of conspiracy theories, and it's like, oh,
do.
the president wanted this to happen for X reasons because of money. And movies like this, it's like, I don't know, maybe, you know? But this movie kind of makes you think, like, well, was it all for money? Is it all for money still?
Right.
Is the world going to hell in a handbag?
It will if critical thinkers don't
You can
rise
see
up.
how I reacted to this
Yeah,
movie. Like,
for sure.
the world is falling apart, and it's too late.
Oh.
We're going down with.
Well,
the ship.
that's where we disagree.
Right.
I don't think it's too late.
Yeah. Well, good. Give us some hope.
Well, I mean, give us some hope. Okay.
Hey, hey, is the world screwed, Dr. Deets?
Like I've already said it. If those who object to what's going on continue to sit and do nothing, yeah, we're screwed.
Yeah.
However, if we arm ourselves with like the ability to think critically, I'm an English teacher, so the ability to use language powerfully,
Yeah.
and the understanding of ourselves, who we are, our strengths,
Yeah.
and then we find that place where I can use my strengths, think critically, and use language powerfully. I think we are not screwed. I think we can change things. The only reason we're currently in the situation we are is because I feel like the people that object to what's going on do nothing. Because it's too hard, because whatever, in this case, the military industrial complex is too big or too
Right.
powerful, or, I don't want to get hurt. I don't want people I love to get hurt. I don't, whatever the reason, the end result is you doing nothing when you could is this movie. This is how the world is because we do nothing. So,
I guess.
and I'm not saying like one person can change the entire world. No, but one person can change whatever it is they're great at,
Yeah.
which changes other people who are influenced by that, which
Right.
changes,
Yeah.
and eventually the world changes.
That is positive.
Well, that is 100% what I believe. That is the only reason I am one of the main reasons why I'm a high school English teacher,
Yeah.
teaching rhetoric, teaching ethics, teaching philosophy,
Yeah.
is because I firmly believe that is true. So,
You reminded me, I don't know who's credited with this quote. There's 3 types of people in the world. Those who don't know something's happening, those who watch something happen, and those who make something happen. Have you heard that?
Mhm.
I don't know where it comes from, but
me either.
you're that's what you made me think of. It's like, we're just going to watch it happen, or we're going to do something. Or,
Yeah, we need to be the ones making something happen.
I guess it's also kind of like the Nicolas Cage's character and his wife, because at the end of the movie, but he says the line should just be evil prevails.
Yeah.
So that's his mindset, because he even told Ethan Hawke, like, if you arrest me, someone will just fill my spot.
Right.
See, now we're back to, maybe we are screwed as a plan.
I don't think we are. I don't think we are.
But his wife, at the end, because she's like kind of denounces everything. Like, I can't wear my clothes. I can't wear my jewelry. Everything I own is blood money.
Yep.
But she says, I don't want to fail at being a human being.
Yeah. Yeah. So philosophically, then, that is one of the points of this movie that I love.
Right.
One of the main philosophical questions is what should be the focus of our lives?
Yeah.
How should we spend our lives? And so this movie has a lot of answers to that, a lot of options: money, power, sex, drugs, all of that. And then we have that option, the wife's option, which is we have to be good human beings, which means we need to take care of each other. We need to prevent evil in our sphere to the best of our ability, et cetera, et cetera. And again, this movie isn't like, this is the right answer, this is the wrong answer. It's just, here are a whole bunch of answers to how should you be spending your life. Pick one.
Right. Because even Ethan Hawke,
yeah,
the guy, when they catch up Nicolas Cage, the guy he's with is like, we can just kill him. Like, no one would even know, but we would know. And at another point, Nicolas Cage says, if he was willing to break the law for good, he would be able to do a lot more, but he's not. He's willing to do everything by the book and by the...
So, yeah, Ethan Hawke's character presents an option. Do we spend our lives, hunting down evil? Jared Leto's character is burying himself so that he doesn't have to think about or do anything about the evil that his brother is doing.
Or just, thinking about anything. I feel there's a direct connection. How do you feel about Jared Leto?
As a character?
As an actor.
He's magnificent in this movie.
He's good in this. And
he's so good.
Movie directors need to somehow tap back into this Jared Leto, because when he's bad, it's bad.
Yeah. So is there any movie he's been in that I should see?
You've seen it. I only know... Hold on. I want to share a story about Jared Leto because he's, for whatever reason, become kind of a joke on the internet to some degree, because he likes to say he's a method actor. They're in character all the time. Like, he was the Joker in the Suicide Squad. Directly, the Joker that followed Heath Ledger, like impossible shoes to fill. And see
that's
what he
rough.
can do. Yeah. And so he would send his, among other things, he would send his castmates rats and stuff. Like, this is Joker, not me. But it was like, come on, Jared Leto, just stop. But then he's in House of Gucci, and he's just wearing a fat suit and a bald cap. It's like, why don't you just get an actor that looks like that way? Why do we have to make Jared Leto look like that? And then he's Morbius. Morbius is like a Spider-Man villain. This is Sony being like, let's make our own little cinematic universe with his villains. And it bombed at the box office. But then it became a meme. Like, it's Morbin time. And Sony thought there was enough excitement. They released it again. It bombed again. I don't even know. He's so strange. But, okay, so before I really knew who he was, he's the lead singer in a band called 30 Seconds to Mars, which I guess would be like, I don't know, emo punk or whatever.
Right.
My brothers are big into it. And I there's some songs I like and stuff. So in college, I finally want to watch a movie called, also about drugs, Requiem for a Dream. One of the most upsetting movies you could ever watch. But it's very, drugs are bad. Don't do drugs. It's just the main characters, their lives are falling apart because of drugs, and he's one of them. I remember in college, I was watching it, and I realized, I looked up his IMDb. I was like, wait a second, this is the lead singer to 30 Seconds on Mars? And I texted my brother, my twin brother, and it's just all caps, Jared Leto. I was like, what? Jared Leto. What happened? It's like, Jared Leto is the lead singer to 30 Seconds to Mars, in all caps, exclamation points. He's like, yeah, duh. It's like, It blew me away. It's like, that guy is this guy? Are you kidding me? But then he's interesting because he also did a movie about the guy who killed John Lennon. But he gained tons of weight. He trying to prove he's an actor. He's like, I will change my body physically to prove that I can, be this character type of thing. He's an interesting guy, and on the internet, he's not very popular, and it's like, But for whatever reason, not that bad in this movie.
I think he's amazing in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, anyway, thanks for indulging my tangent.
That's what we're here for.
Students say you guys get off topic a lot. It's like, well, it's what happens.
I guess. So back to philosophy. There's this is just like a playground for all of the major philosophical questions.
Yeah.
What larger context outside of ourselves should we be connecting to? There's multiple answers to that. How should we go about dealing with the fact that we're going to die? Multiple answers to that. What is the ideal of human perfection? Multiple answers to that.
Interesting.
And we could just go down. I mean, there's very few of the major philosophical questions that this movie doesn't weigh in on.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's one of my favorite movies. What is the source of suffering? This movie has multiple answers to that.
Yeah.
How can you find happiness? Multiple answers to that.
Right. I think that's kind of... I'm not the first person to compare it to that other movie, War Dogs, but it's not as deep. It doesn't bring up things like that, and the main character gets a conscience, and it's like, oh, should we do this? It's like, well, you're a gun runner. You're breaking the law. We gotta make you relatable to the audience, so let's have you question what you're doing, maybe.
Right, and this movie refuses to do that, which is another reason it's so strong.
Right.
You have to, I guess you don't have to, but you have to hate Nicolas Cage's character at the end of this movie.
Yeah.
He gives up his family, he gives up everything to continue causing pain and evil in the world.
Yeah.
So philosophically... I don't know of a better movie provides multiple inroads to so many different philosophical questions.
Yeah.
So, ethically, it's also very rich.
Because ethically, you want America to be a good place.
Sure.
And you want America to take care of other people who need to be taken care of.
Sure.
And you want America to have the means to protect ourselves. But... what is not a good thing for America to do those things?
As long as we're thinking about it, weighing the different sides, what are the benefits, what are the drawbacks?
See, is there even a point to signing petitions or joining protests? Not that, I don't know, it's how do you show that you're upset about something as a U.S. citizen? But then again, it's at the same time, it's like, well...
Well, I mean, not to go back to the same thing, but I think it's about knowing yourself, knowing your strengths.
That's fair.
Knowing how to use language powerfully, and then using it in your sphere.
Yeah.
I mean, there are Martin Luther King Jr.'s, obviously.
Yeah. But not everyone's gonna be.
Right. There are Malcolm X's. There are Cesar Chavez's. But that's not everyone.
Yeah.
But... I firmly believe everyone has their thing or things that they're awesome at.
Right.
If they figure out what they are, one, they figure out how to use language powerfully so that they can do that thing, two, and then they do it, three, the world changes. But I'm old. We've already established, I'm 48. I hate all caps social media because currently what social media is doing is deadening all of that.
Right.
All of that. We think if we post a pissed off meme on social media that we're accomplishing something.
Yeah.
We're not.
Right.
It's just this, I want to take as much time of yours as possible so that you don't ever change anything about yourself, about the people around you, about the world. And the more we dedicate ourselves to social media, the less likely it is that the world is ever going to change. Individually, small groups, large groups, collectively.
Yeah. And even like to the extent of this podcast, we want, for the record, I want it on the record. I feel like people can make a difference, and that people are good, and that I feel like most people don't want others to suffer and be suffering.
So to like finish that thought, take it all the way out, the people like Nicolas Cage's characters in this movie desperately do not want people like the people that are listening to this podcast to ever figure out they have power.
Yes.
They want you to believe that your contribution, your movement, your using your skills and abilities in your sphere is pointless, useless. And if they can convince you of that, and that you just need to, lay down, watch Netflix, and eat Cheetos while the world burns around you, if they can convince you that that is what you should do, the world will burn around you.
See, that's what I mean. That's what I when I compared it to that movie about like the medical, the pharma stuff, where it's like we've built all these bureaucratic lines around things to make it complicated because the people at the top don't want to be not at the top.
Absolutely. And
part of that is there's just so much money. Like in this movie shows, it's like, look how wealthy Nicolas Cage got. And they don't want to not be wealthy.
Right.
And they're going to keep doing things to stay on top. And it's like.
And one of the, again, this is a passion for me. Again, one of the main things they're doing is convincing you, listener, that you can't do anything about it. You don't have power. That is bullcrap. It may be true that you personally can't take down the Nicolas Cage person, but I believe in the ants. I believe that 100 ants can take down one grasshopper.
Oh, can I do another tangent? So there's a famous classic debate. Do violent video games make people violent? What are your thoughts on that? Do violent movies and video games make people violent?
Well, let me tell you.
NPR.
Okay. My bachelor's degree is in psychology. Admittedly, it was a long time ago.
So you forgot about it.
No, I didn't forget about it, but what I'm going to say is maybe outdated. But our brain has a very difficult time telling the difference between a violent act that we see in real life and a violent act that we see in a movie. And so do violent movies make us more violent? Potentially not. Do they desensitize us to the pain of other people in real life? I don't think that we can make any other conclusion but then yes. So we take that into video games. So video games are built to cause a mental state called flow. So when we're in the state of flow, our conscious mind is not really involved in what's going on.
It's called the zone.
The zone, sure. The zone. When you're in the zone and you're playing GTA, your conscious mind is not involved in what you're doing. So your conscious mind can't tell your unconscious mind, this is not us. We're not doing that. And so from my perspective, based on, 20-year-old psychology, absolutely violent video games make us violent because your brain is doing those things. If you are flowing while you play, you are that character for all intents and purposes in your mind. So you are running over that grandma. You are shooting that bank teller. You are doing that. Does it translate directly into violent behavior? I don't know.
I think that's the sticking point people either get upset about.
But I don't think we can be intellectually honest and say that violent movies and violent video games do not desensitize us and do not create in us an increase in violent tendencies.
Yeah.
So that's my answer.
Okay.
So ethics. The main characters represent different ethical schools. So Nicolas Cage's character, I think, represents Darwinian ethics. Did I come out on top? Then it must have been right.
Right.
Jared Leto's character, I believe, represents empathetic ethics. How would I feel if I were the one that this was happening to? But I think his wife represents loyalist ethics. I'm going to be loyal to my group, what benefits my group, until she finally breaks that.
Yeah.
And so the fact that she breaks that
Mm-hmm.
and turns on her husband eventually suggests, again, weakness in the loyalist ethic. Loyalist ethics only works well if the group that you are loyal to is doing good things.
Yeah.
The fact that Jared Leto dies is disturbing from an ethical standpoint because it means that empathetic ethics is a sacrificial ethic. That suggests, in the context of what we were talking about earlier, does the individual have any power?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we do have power. It might cost us.
Yeah.
Ultimately, like in Jared Leto's character's case, it costs him his life.
Yeah.
But it also suggests, in terms of empathetic ethics, that sacrificing on the behalf of other people is power. Sacrificing to make the world a better place is power. However, the Darwinian ethics wins in the end.
Right.
And the reasons for that we've already talked about is no one opposes.
Right. And that's kind of
We beat that to death this
feels
episode.
like you can't even oppose it.
Right. And that is a mirage. That is a falsehood that the people in power perpetuate.
However, the money or lack of money is a factor in that sometimes.
Maybe.
I
don't know. I don't think Martin Luther King was very rich.
Yeah. He was rich in voice.
Sure. I don't think Gandhi was terribly rich. Wore a sheet and didn't eat very much. And Gandhi took down the British Empire.
Yeah, right.
How did he do it? He didn't have a lot of money. He didn't have any money.
He didn't have any money.
Yeah, India is a sovereign country, independent of Britain, because Gandhi and a whole bunch of other ants did something.
I don't know if this is true, but there was a story like in ancient Egypt. It's like, let's make the slaves wear a cloth or a color so it's easier to find the slaves or whatever. And they're like, wait, we can't do that because then they'd figure out how much they outnumber us.
Yeah,
that type of.
That's Hopper.
Yeah, from Bugs Life.
That's my favorite Disney moment.
Hopper's a great villain.
He is a great villain.
Remember when they sold the VHS covers and you got to choose which character you wanted on the cover? I chose the caterpillar because he was funny, but my friend chose Hopper because of villains. All right, so I feel like this is a great adult drama, and we don't get a lot of adult dramas anymore because of how blockbusters are set up. It used to be back in the day, studios were more willing to give us something like this. Back in the day, being just 20 years ago. Marvel kind of single-handedly changed the industry because of what makes money and what doesn't. But it used to be if a big movie did super well, the studio would let other movies be made that are smaller budget with the hopes it could be successes. Like adult dramas. We get less of those now. And those are usually finding their way to streaming. In fact, streaming's also been a big problem with giving us variety in movies type of thing. Anyway, we didn't get to negatives, but my negative is basically goes into with what I was planning to say for the film studies of the real.
Let's do it.
What is a melodrama? What does it mean to be melodramatic?
Over the top emotional response, to the point of absurdity.
Right.
Yeah.
If you go see a melodrama on stage, you're encouraged to boo the villains, cheer for the heroes, make ooh sounds when they kiss type of stuff. That's part of the fun of going to a melodrama and stuff. I think this movie gets a tad bit melodramatic.
That's fair.
But there's also a phrase, it's kind of a give and take type of thing, because do you know what it means to chew the scenery? Mm-mm. So if an actor is really in it, it's called they're chewing the scenery. You can just tell they're having fun in this situation.
Oh, okay.
They're in it. It's also, you could be chewing the furniture or whatnot. Or chewing the fat. but like to act, kind of overact, but in a way that's kind of fun for an audience.
Yeah.
To kind of pay to watch. The example that popped in my head was they made a remake of The Witches, and Anne Hathaway is the lead witch in the remake. And I don't know if that movie's great, but it's fun to watch Anne Hathaway be like super evil, you know? Because it looks like she's having fun. She's chewing the scenery.
Got it.
In most movies, Nicolas Cage probably could say he's chewing the scenery. Even though you can tell, because Nicolas Cage produced this. I think this was like a passion project I saw.
Oh.
That he wanted this one to be made type of thing. And it doesn't break the movie because I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. But there's some parts I'm like, I don't know if, like, even though the situation is big, sometimes like, okay, all right, well, maybe you don't need to be acting like this. Also, Jared Leto, him and Nicolas Cage, mostly at the beginning, I'm like, all right, whatever. I don't know.
Like
It
their
was hard-
relationship? Or...
Their relationship or how they would react to something. It's like, I don't know if this is how people react. It seemed a bit melodramatic for me.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, even though they're gun runners breaking the law and stuff, I was like, okay, I don't know if you're kind of being a bit much, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, melodramatic, chewing the scenery. Also, out of, just on a separate note for negatives, he sells one gun, and then it felt like the next thing we know, it's like, oh, now I'm selling lots of guns. It's like, well, where are you getting these guns? How does this work? Well, you have a whole operation we're just not seeing, kind of.
Yeah.
But I was like, you rose to power fast, but where did you get all the stuff?
Yeah.
Speaking of Lord of the Rings,
Wait, who was speaking of Lord of the Rings?
I meant like
We're not
like an
speaking of
hour
Lord-
ago we
no,
were speaking
yeah.
of.
We're gonna-
What's his
Thank you for listening,
No,
listen.
wait. Because it's Ian Holm is in this movie. He's the guy that Nicolas Cage shoots in the head, and he's Bilbo Baggins.
Cool.
Movie that I think is good. A lot of the people I follow on Letterboxd were lukewarm on it. They didn't really like it. They got to think critically. It's like it's
they
so
don't.
easy to watch a movie, be like, I'm going to give it this. Then you see, well, most people are not rating it that high. Maybe I didn't like it as much as I thought.
Right.
You know what I mean? Anyhow.
Thank you for listener for being with us. So
Yeah, this
just-
episode is very heavy on to survive in this world, we need to think critically.
Yeah.
Which is pretty nice.
yeah.
Okay, we finished phase 2. We're in phase 3. The next 3 movies are Captain America Civil War, Doctor Strange, then Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Our paths are about to cross. In the past, though.
What does that mean?
You'll see next week.
So Civil War, huh?
Yep. Civil War.
So is this like an Avengers Civil War or
Kind
like
of.
just the Civil War?
It's
Civil
not-
War.
out of the question to call it Avengers 2.5 or something.
So it's Captain America's Civil War.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
Civil War is a huge thing in the comics, like a big event. And we'll probably talk about it next week. I
Does
didn't
Iron
read.
Man die?
I'm not going to say anything about anything that happens.
Oh, you already did. You've revealed everything. I know where the poison is. And what in the world can that be?
So long, critical thinkers. Remember to rate and
Oh,
review. Share it with your friends. Email us about what you thought of this movie or any of the movies we cover
Yeah.
at desertoftherealpod@gmail.com.
That is the email.
And officially, now we love you.
Okay. We didn't before, but now we do. We'll see you next week.
All right, see you next week. Bye.